Hey guys, this is Doug. I'm here with Adam, and today we're talking all about Kingdom Death Monster and its very first monster, the White Lion. Adam, welcome back to the internet. How are you, sir?
I'm doing quite well. The foray into the world of death has been very interesting.
Are you ready to launch our big, exciting new product, Mr. Adam?
Oh, yeah!
So today is the first episode, guys, of a Kingdom Death Monster product that Adam and I are going to be working on an ongoing basis that we're calling Death-Pedia, spelled death -PEDIA apostrophe. So basically what this is at a very high level is Adam and I are going to work through sequentially, not necessarily in sequential order, but we're going to work through one by one all of the different monsters within Kingdom Death Monster, and we're going to talk you through kind of the soup to nuts on how they work and how they fit into the ecosystem of the game. So what does that mean? Basically, we're going to break down at a very high level a little bit of background on the monster, whatever the episode is about, whichever monster the episode is about. Then we're going to go through each of the primary phases of the game, right? So we're going to talk through the hunt phase, then we're going to talk through the showdown phase, then we're going to talk through the settlement phase, and kind of what each of the goodies associated with each of those phases relevant to what each monster is either going to give, or how their AI deck works, or what you can expect during the hunt phase. So if you guys are specifically only looking for interaction with, for example, the White Lion, only during the hunt phase, you want to know what to expect only during the hunt phase, go to that section of the video. We'll have it tagged for you. And if you don't want to spoil the showdown phase or the settlement phase, you can kind of avoid those sections by not clicking through them. And we're going to label each one. So like I said, each section of this video will be labeled. So if you're looking to keep something kind of on the DL from yourself because you want to experience it for the first time, because obviously that's a big part of Kingdom Death Monster, just don't click into those sections of videos, or maybe come back after you've tried the monster for the first time. Adam, excited to have you here, my friend.
I'm excited
Give
to
us
be here.
a little bit of background on the White Lion. What's the deal with this thing?
So I feel probably the best way to refer to the White Lion is through the prologue of the core game itself. Without going too much into the specifics, this entire premise takes place in a world of a skyless night, so to say. There is nothing but darkness around you as you awaken in a place of cold stone faces existing as the floor. There is no ground, there is no grass, just stone and humanoid faces all around you. You are not but a loincloth and a lantern. From this unimaginable darkness, a lion with fur whiter than the freshest snow you could imagine and paws in the shape of a human charges at you and several other people that happen to awaken in this place and starts ripping you all to shreds.
What a wonderful way to wake up.
It is a beast through and through, and it exists for nothing but to feed and upon your fear.
It doesn't sound super pleasant, if I'm being honest with you.
Well,
and you've got basically a rock and a lantern.
yes. One of the people among the survivors that is not immediately eviscerated by the lion runs around in an attempt to find a way to justify their existence in this pitifulness. And in crawling around trying to evade the lion, they manage to find a piece of the floor that they can rip apart and take a jagged piece of stone and scream and charge at this thing.
So it's fair to say that the White Lion basically represents the video game opening prologue that is the journey that the protagonist will go on, right? Like you just kind of like open your eyes, you grab a piece of shard on the floor, and you go try to kill a lion that's like 5 times the size of you. Basically is what's going on here.
Yeah, it's relatively adequate. I would definitely say to not imagine oneself as a video game protagonist, because the way the game works, for those that don't know, because this is White Lion, I imagine if you're interested and don't necessarily know, you might just look at this video. You play as a survivor. you will have many survivors.
There will be many survivors. They will
Yes,
die a lot.
very important. Don't worry about a single one being like the
Don't
hero.
get too emotionally attached.
Yeah, it ain't worth it, Chief. That
Yeah.
man may just get eaten by a lion because he punched him in the nuts and punched his nuts off. Totally a
Yeah,
thing.
that man or woman ain't gonna be around too long.
Valid.
All right, cool. So that's kind of the background for encountering the white lion. That's why you're here. That's what's going on. Let's talk a little bit about the hunt phase. What can folks expect specifically in the hunt phase of this overall encounter, Mr. Adam?
So the white lion hunt events are pretty interesting. The white lion, and this goes as well for the showdown phase. And we'll get to that as well. Um, it's a pretty good introductory monster because a lot of its stuff has a very good upfront example of high risk, high reward. The white lion hunt events in particular have some of the most annoying encounters where the lion can easily run too far from you when you go to like high levels of it, resulting in you just suffering and losing a Lanturnier, which is really bad at late game. But also in the early game, if you're lucky, the two white lion events you'll encounter the first time you go and hunt a lion can be the lion cub, which is a really fun and kind of spicy one. You literally encounter a little lion cub, um, and you get the option to, as a group, collectively agree we are going to bash its skull in, and if you do
Oh
this,
no.
you get
Uh
resources, but you will deal with a much more aggressive lion.
Angrier. Yeah, much
Um,
angrier lion.
yeah, and a lot of the things you encounter for the lion specific cards are very similar to that. You can get an immediate benefit of resource, but the cost of the remainder of this small outing is going to be like a pain in your groin, so to say. Or you could just not, and then there's maybe like a mildly annoying thing that'll happen to you right away.
Yeah, so it's like a question of like, do you do this thing, get the short-term resource, but then make your life a lot more fun down the road, basically?
Yeah, and not even down the road. It will
Pretty
just
much immediately.
last.
It's pretty much
Yeah.
immediately.
And the
Yeah.
good news though is that if you do, it's only gonna last until it's dead or until you die, and it won't matter past that.
The good news is you'll either die or it'll die.
Yeah, because minor spoilers. There are monsters that those exact same decisions come up, but the implications of the bad thing do last outside of your hunt and showdown. So
So it's you said there's really only like two big meaningful hunt components. Are you saying, is it fair to say that the hunt phase is a little bit more limited on this one because it really is meant to be the first mission for many people?
no, just specifically when you hunt the level 1 lion, you only get 2 lion events and 2 basic hunt events.
Got it.
So unless you get the one where the lion intentionally runs away from you, you're only going to get 2. Which if you got the one where it runs away, that sucks, and that's annoying. But it's not the end of the world because then it can't run further away usually.
And then I guess any other tips or tricks for the hunt phase before we move on to the showdown?
I'm trying to recall here. Most of the I believe my can't remember for sure, but I know the lion has a way to more easily give access to the ammonia innovation. I think it's a hunt event, but it requires like understanding if I remember correctly. Well, there's not anything in particular, outside of the fun of the lion cub, I suppose. Not that I think brutalizing a lion cub is a good thing, but I do think the dynamic it poses to the player and the immediate choice, and the fact is the lion cub is you get a lot of resources if you bash that baby's head in, like a significant amount, especially if it's your first hunt of the game. It's like
Wild.
it's basically like you get an extra lion kill out of it. It's so really worth it if it pays out, basically.
All right, let's talk about the showdown phase. So, the showdown phase, obviously, we're going to talk about two of kind of the most important things that are involved with fighting the boss monster. We're going to talk about the AI deck that's associated with it, and we're also going to talk about things like hit locations and anything else that might be important to know about when you encounter this monster actually in the showdown phase. So, I guess with that, Adam, where do you want to start us off in the showdown phase? Let's talk about the AI deck, I guess, because I think that's important to understand how the behavior of the monster is
Sure.
going to work. Why don't we start there?
Sure. So the AI deck for the White Lion is absolutely one of the easiest to understand in the game. The White Lion has 6 move and like all variations at minimum. There are monsters that can have less to start with, but the White Lion has just more than the player starts with, so that way you can never in one turn run away from it. A lot of the stuff it does is very simple. It's like speed 2, so it's going to swing twice at you. It's got pretty reasonable monster accuracy. The majority of the cards are all going to hit you on a 2-up. But the good news there is that a lot of them are 1 damage. The only stuff that's like super special about the lion, it has a few mood cards. And you know, if you're worried about moods, because there are monsters that you might choose to encounter in your game that can make them prevalent, it does incentivize you to go for the rawhide whip item in particular very early, which is very easily made through hunting the lion. So it helps facilitate that early game push for those innovations and those weapons. The scary thing, I suppose, for a level 1 lion in particular, is if it gets the alert mood in play really early. And for reference, the alert mood is one that makes it so that if a player spends a move action of some kind within 4 spaces of the lion, that player stops moving, they gain the priority target, and then the mood is discarded, and the lion then performs basic action, which means it will just jump at you.
That doesn't seem fun. Well, at
It's
least for the
not.
players.
It's not, because you have to, if you're in that zone when that card is pulled. The good news is it's one of the moods that doesn't like draw an extra AI card, so that'll be its turn. But until it leaves you, you can't leave it.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
Are there any other? Is that the biggest? Would you say that's like the biggest thing to know about how its AI mechanics work, or is there anything else that comes to mind for you?
No, there's a lot. That's probably just like the most annoying one that happens on a level 1 lion. As you fight higher and higher level versions of the lion, the important thing is that it will gain some traits. Those traits help facilitate its playstyle. The lion, primarily a lot of its hit locations, it will have a reaction where it will dart backwards from being hit in an attempt to like jump back from its prey swatting at it. There's a couple cards that care about players being knocked down, and the lion at level 2 gets a trait that at the end of its turn, it puts its little kitty cat paw. They extend the claws, and they reach into your flesh, and it pulls you with it, and it knocks you down and hurts you as part of that process. The lion is also guaranteed to have 2 tall grasses. I have found the most success when fighting the white lion to kind of have a very specific area of influence where you have it kind of go back and forth between those 2 pieces of grass, and you try to stay within the grass as much as you can so that you can remove priority target when you need to, as well as making it harder for that lion to hit you. It's a little tricky once you get to level 2 because that cunning trait, because it will get extra movement basically if a player is too close. So it can be kind of a pain in a sense. The lion really teaches you to pay attention to the blind spot as well as paying attention to your position on the board. I think a lot better than some other monsters that punish you more for it.
That makes sense. I mean, it's like it makes sense that it would be trying to teach you positional concepts because it is one of the first encounters. I'd imagine that becomes ever more relevant as we encounter ever scarier creatures, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything on? So I think those are really good call out points for the level 1 and level 2 lions. Anything else at all from an AI deck perspective or from like a hit location perspective that you want to talk about specifically in the showdown?
Yeah, so probably should make sure if you're curious about the AI deck, the scary thing of any monster is going to be the trap, right? The White Lion's trap is the simplest. Same thing for the rest of its cards. Meant to be very simple. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's easy to understand. The White Lion trap specifically, it dooms you, which means you don't get the ability to spend survival. So in essence, you know, it happens the first time you hunt it, you're gonna be doomed. Oh no, you can't dodge now. Later on, it's gonna be more annoying because like you can't potentially use combos you might have with some of your equipment that requires you to spend like dash or surge while an attack is happening. So it's just it dooms you, and then it just does a basic action, and that's it. That's the whole trap. It's actually probably among the weaker ones outside of the doom factor. And the important thing about that is that while you're doomed, like I said, you can't spend survival. But the important thing is that higher level versions of the lion is going to start giving itself like accuracy tokens and strength tokens. So it's going to be much more easily able to damage you, even though it won't really do necessarily more swings. it's still gonna hit you, and you just have to accept the results of the die when that happens.
Wild. It's gonna hit you. You just have to accept it. It's funny.
Yeah, because normally you can dodge any attack theoretically if you have the survival and the dodge action available. So, monster has one big scary thing on one single attack. It's like, oh no, I'll dodge it. I don't care. But
Yeah.
being doomed makes it like, oh, hold on, wait a minute. How much damage is that per hit? Oh, it's 6? Oh, I have armor 3 and I'm already at a severe. Oh, okay.
Squish, or I guess claw, rather.
Yeah,
it's the
and then
onomatopoeia that happens.
fingers crossed on your severe injury table roll.
So any other final tips and tricks on the Showdown phase before we talk about the sweet, sweet settlement phase and all the crafting you get to do when you finally kill this thing?
Yes. So, generally with the White Lion, you should have a game plan of having someone using a bow or a spear or a whip. Specifically, you want someone that doesn't have to be directly in a square adjacent to the monster to avoid that cunning. Ideally, everybody having equipment that allows that would be the best. You definitely, very early though, if you want to go after the White Lion because you really want to get like the whole White Lion outfit, or you just want like some of its high level gear and you feel that fighting it continuously will facilitate that, you definitely want to make an investment in the Catenarium, which we'll get to in the settlement phase, and you want to get the Catgut bow. Super worth it. It's annoying as an early level bow, but it also gives you that range factor, which may give you the, I guess, courage to go after that level 2 lion a little early, and be careful to not overestimate your ability to handle that monster at that point.
Lol.
You could easily wind up in a very poor situation because of it.
You could easily make a bad life choice.
Yes.
That's funny. All right. Well, I think that's actually a pretty good transition into the settlement phase. You set yourself up there pretty seamlessly there, Mr. Adam.
Well, thank
Let's
you.
talk about the loot. That's what everybody's favorite part, right? What we got in the settlement phase?
So the first time you fight the lion, the prologue, you do not get the Catenarium, which is its whole location that gives you access to all of its gear. Once you fight it the first time proper, then you get the Catenarium. Little confusing on it because it's like built into the cat in a sense as part of like the rewards for it. But you're not supposed to innovate it from the prologue fight because you're like not actually in a lantern year yet, as far as I understand. And if I may have that incorrect, but that's how I've always tried to run it after a couple back and forth with some folks here and there. If you are lucky enough to get sinew, and I think it's the great cat bone, I'm doing this just off the top of my head, that is what you need to make the catgut bow. You definitely want to try to craft that if it's reasonable based on your results. The other big thing, and this is what makes the cat really worth it to hunt for the first couple times, and it doesn't necessarily feel bad if you actually do get the cat eye. If you get the cat eye organ, you can make the cat eye circlet, and in many of the groups of people that I've played with, they all love that. There's always one person that loves to have the cat eye circlet, and you can't blame them. It's a really good early game item that can honestly hold on until close to the end game. You just spend an action. You get to look at the top 3 hit locations of the monster's hit location deck and put them back in any order. It doesn't stop you from hitting the trap, but barring one particular nemesis, it lets you constantly be like, all right, you have a speed 1 or speed 2 weapon. Cool. Let's see if you're going to hit that trap. Oh, you're not? Great. And if it's there, someone could use their founding stone if they still have it, or if you have a person with like a catgut bow, you could shoot, and potentially the monster might not be able to hit depending on the setup that you got, because it only moves 6 or maybe 7 or whatever, and you might have enough distance that it doesn't matter. I suppose the other thing, the cat itself kind of wants you to run Katars. I don't know how many people feel about Katars, but they're bad. They're just fundamentally
they're
bad in my
bad.
opinion. Yeah, so I know
Trash
you've
tier, no
never
do.
I know you've never used Katars specifically, Doug, but just to give a refresh, because I try to skip over them, right?
Yeah, sure.
Katars are usually high-speed weapons with medium accuracy and sometimes good strength, right? So you're rolling a couple dice at a time, and you're probably going to hit, and you're likely to deal damage on a weakish monster, right? They also have the ability paired, which when you attack with the paired weapon, you get to add the speed stat of the other one to the first, meaning you get 2 weapons out of 1 action, right? That sounds good. doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like, sounds like it's efficient.
However, the problem is you can't just stop attacking a monster.
Yeah.
So if you have Katars that are speed, let's say 4, right, and you have them paired, you roll 8 dice, you hit with all 8. The hit location deck is, in this example, 15. There's 1 trap card in there. If you hit the trap, your whole attack is failed immediately.
Yeah.
And that's the fault of Katars. The ones that the cat gives you are, like, if you're going to make 1, it's actually pretty good. Speed 2, 7 accuracy, strength 3 with deadly. Pretty good. I am a huge fan, however, of like rushing a king spear really early, which just requires, I believe, it's 2 specific bones. One is the cat fang bow, or no, the cat tooth, and cat, like the bone one that I can't remember the name of. But the king spear is great just because really early it only takes like 2 bones, so it's very, very cheap costs on a 2 speed weapon with 6 accuracy, 3 strength that has reach 2. And getting that reach that early is great. Like I said in the previous segment, if you're going to go after a level 2 cat because you feel super confident, if you get yourself a spear and maybe a bow or a couple spears, super easy. Just, yeah, you can poke that cat at range and it can't use the cunning trait to pull you into grass and hurt you real bad. I will say I've usually don't feel the want to make cat armor though. It is better than the leather armor, but it costs just a little bit too much resources in comparison to just making rawhide or saving up for leather armor, in my opinion. Getting the +1 to your armor on any body slot super early in the game is reasonable, but this feeds kind of back a little into my opinion on Katars. The stuff the cat gives you wants you to build the whole set out. Then when you use its ability to pounce, you get to move and act as 1 specialized action. You get accuracy bonus and strength bonus too, and it's pretty solid in that respects. And again, having 3 armor across the body at like kind of the early game point, it's also very reasonable. But it just costs more resources, and I feel that if you want to rush defensive stuff that early, for the same resource cost, you could, in theory, have crafted 2 entire rawhide sets. And I feel having one on a person and or spreading the second one around just would play a lot better for your group in general.
I think that's pretty reasonable, to be honest. It feels like we've gone over a good amount of the White Lion. But do you have any closing thoughts? It doesn't have to be about like a specific phase. Just like any closing thoughts in general for folks that, you know, are just starting out with Kingdom Death. This is probably their first like overall encounter because it's the White Lion.
Yep.
Just like any advice for newer Kingdom Death players or for players that are just starting out in their Kingdom Death journey?
Yeah, in my experience, the White Lion, as wonderfully designed as that fight is, and as good as the back and forth you get with hunting him repeatedly with the gear that you make out of his own skin, there is a very specific, what's the word I'm thinking of here? There is a very specific like balancing act you have to play with this cat. In that you can't hunt it too much unless you're gonna go for its gear specifically, because what'll happen is the butcher is gonna show up at like year 4-5, and that means you can hunt, if you include the prologue, 5-6 times something. If you want to potentially hunt a different monster, like your node 2 monster, or your whatever, you really don't want to hunt the cat more than like 3 times before the butcher fight. And that's just because you're gonna overextend into trying to get too much of its equipment, unless there's several people that want like cat specific gear. The only other thing too is that a lot of the hit locations on the cat have critical effects that give you free items. Hold on, my cat is on my desk. I'm gonna just take a moment to get him off. I have
That's okay. Fluff-based interruptions are reasonable. He just wants to be part of the episode, dude.
He does, and I mean maybe this will be in the outros, but now I got to get his attention with this churro here. Come on, buddy.
Sure. Wait, you're feeding your cat a churro?
It's a brand of creamy cat treats.
Oh, I thought you were giving him like the fried Mexican pastry treat.
I understand where you were coming from. No, it's a churro. It's a
I see.
brand. Yeah, cats love them for the most part. Found out. All right, he's off the desk. Okay.
Just to be clear, Adam, you should not cut that. I think this whole churro interaction is very pertinent.
Okay.
I think this is probably the best part of the episode for many of the
You
viewers.
know, that's fair. I mean, I'm gonna put pictures of Archmagos in, and people,
should.
if they missed the outro the last time I was around, now
You
they're
should
gonna know that I have
Photoshop
a
it so
cat.
that he's like a. You should Photoshop Archmagos so it makes him look like he's like actually like a Adeptus like
Mechanicus.
Magus. Yeah. Yeah. that'd be
Are they
hilarious.
Adeptus Mechanicus?
Is it cat or is it robot?
We'll see.
All right. Anyway.
We'll see.
All right. Let's
Yeah.
get back on track.
All right, back to the point. Yeah. So yeah, the only real negative on the White Lion, and I absolutely want to hear what people think about this, is it puts you in a trap of overfighting the level 1, because you have a lot of, if you're competent, right, you're gonna go in, you might spend intentionally a stone or two for the resource that you're then gonna use to like make something more important. And you're going to keep doing that because you're getting the serotonin hit of like, oh my god, like we got so many free things. And then you're going to hit one time where you get no crits and you get no free resources, but you could have just fought a monster that was just gonna statistically give you more and not rely on criticals. And it's going to make a feels bad when you're like, oh no, we have someone who like does not have gear, and the butcher, oh god, let's hope the butcher doesn't go after them, and the butcher will kill them, which will then immediately snowball into everyone dying on that nemesis encounter. So the only thing about the cat, if you want to hunt it, that's great. Just keep in mind, probably cap yourself at 2 hunts, and then depending on how well you got with crits on the first and second one, fully should dictate if it's worth it to do the next one as another White Lion.
Yeah, I think that's fair feedback. And also, I think a lot of this stuff that you were like, I'm familiar with this encounter, but not to the level that you are. So I'm glad that we did this, because I was, you know, that SpongeBob meme where it's like, write that down. That's what I was doing while you were talking, because still some interesting stuff I learned even today. So I guess, thank you, Adam. This has been great. Thank you for Death-Pedia-ing with me. Inaugural episode 1 in the books. Let's go.
Awesome.
Keep an eye out, guys. Adam and I are going to keep doing this. We're happy to take suggestions if there are specific monsters or encounters, or even just things about Kingdom Death Monster that you guys are interested in seeing. Adam is super passionate about this, and I'm really intrigued and enamored with the world. I'm still kind of like a newbie to this game, but Adam is the grizzled vet that's kind of showing me around. So if there's anything that you guys want to see or hear from a content perspective, let us know. But we are going to focus pretty heavily on kind of like an episodic monster by monster breakdown, at least for the Death-Pedia series. So I guess until next time, there's only one last thing to do. Adam, say goodbye to the internet.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye, the
and
internet.
Next time, there will be crimson rain from above.
Boom, boom, boom.